Alright, I'm going to make an attempt at a time-lapse video of me bucking up all of these trees on the trailer here and stacking them on my wood pile. So here we go. Okay, so most of my techniques are up for debate with a lot of people. I cut wood a little bit different than most people do. As you can see, I hold the saw back from the log a ways while I'm cutting. Here I knock over my camera, so I had to go pick that bad boy up off the ground. But when I'm cutting, I hold the saw away from the log, so I don't necessarily use the teeth and buck the log in a traditional way. Although this uses a little bit more physical strength to hold the saw out, I find that it cuts a lot faster and it keeps my chain RPM up in the higher ranges, so it cuts faster and more efficiently. It also cleans the saw out. When I'm cutting, it cleans the chain out quite well. It doesn't bog down as much as it usually does with using other methods. So here in this clip, coming up, I'm going to show you exactly what it does when I actually put the saw right up against there with the teeth. And as I'm going through the log, it bogs down. It really doesn't stay up high in RPMs. From my experience, I base this on the sawdust basically clogging around the clutch area, around the basket where your cover is, and not flushing out where it needs to be. And so that's why I will hold the saw further back and allow the chips to clear out from the bottom. The saw I'm using in the video is a Stihl 260 Pro. They've since come out with the 261 Pro. It's a pro saw. It's not a homeowner saw. I do have the Stihl Farm Boss bar on it. In the video, it's an 18-inch bar. I'm running a full chisel chain. That chain has probably been sharpened 2 or 3 times, and it still cuts pretty darn good. I'm a heck of a saw. I watch a lot of videos on people cutting wood, and a lot of people will have all kinds of different ways to go about it. One of them is they don't rev up the saw before they drop it in the wood, and I don't think that's a way that is best done. I like to rev the saw up and then drop it in the wood. I'd say I'm very experienced in chainsawing. I can tell when the saw is going to buck or kick back at me. Usually avoid a lot of the kickback by holding the saw with a lot of force. Put a lot more energy into it. I avoid a lot of bucking and stuff like that by putting my foot sometimes on the log to hold it from moving around. Most of the time where you have a buck or a kickback, it's because your log moved on you. So here I'm cutting. I have just the tip of the saw in the wood, and if I pick up the saw enough, you can see it cleaning out the chain right after it comes out of the wood, so it never really comes back into my clutch basket or is even in the saw. Now when I do a lot of cutting like this, you'll see me check the chain a couple times. For those of you that aren't aware, when a chain gets hot, it'll stretch out. If it runs too loose, you can throw the chain off, and you can crack your case on your saw if the chain binds up back by the clutch basket. So here in the next clip, I'm going to show exactly how I keep the RPMs up. I tried to do as best I could to get a side view of what I do. So I use the traditional rocking back and forth motion, but I keep the saw away from the wood. So I'll keep my foot up to keep from bucking or it moving, and then I keep the saw about mid-length in the hardest part of the wood. So I'm not using the teeth on the saw for rocking back and forth. I'm doing that by hand, and then at the very end I might sink it all the way to go ahead and plant the rest of the saw through. Union brake. So next, let's talk about the saw a little bit. So like I said before, this is a Stihl 260 Pro. So this is one of the smaller pro saws that they make. It has the, I might be wrong, but I think it has the exact same horsepower as the 291, the biggest homeowner saw. A lot of people know that as the Farm Boss. That saw will scream. I've ran the 291. I've put a lot of hours behind one. A 20-inch bar is usually what comes on a Farm Boss. This is an 18-inch with the same power as the Farm Boss in a lighter package. A buddy of mine that's a dealer, he convinced me to go with a pro saw because it'd be easier for longer cutting periods, wouldn't be worn out holding the saw up, and he was right. It definitely cuts well for what it is, and it definitely has a lot of power. So anytime I get into bigger logs where the bar is buried, I don't have a lot of bog down or nothing crazy. Cutting stumps with it is a little bit of a bear, but it still gets the job done. So as you can see here, these logs that I'm cutting, I have a lot of hardwoods, and these are fairly mature hardwoods with a big core in the center. These are heavy logs. I estimated anywhere from 10 to 15,000 pounds on the trailer when I started. It was a low and slow trip back to the house, but I made it. And so this hickory isn't bad to cut. It treats me pretty good. See, it's kind of like every single cut is different for me, so I don't necessarily set every cut up the same. I will set it up however I'm feeling, and however it goes, it goes. I might have my foot on it one time, I might have my knee against it one time. It just all depends on exactly how I'm feeling with that cut. So I have a lot of different preferences on how I cut each log and how I go after it. A lot of people will use the brake every single time. I know my buddy Josh will use the brake every single time he puts the saw down. There are guys that kind of go crazy with safety, that kind of thing. They're constantly worried about safety, and a couple of my friends will only cut if they have chaps on. These FireHose pants from Duluth, I have never hit my pant leg with them, but I would trust them to at least stop the chainsaw in case something crazy happened. Of course, I exercise a lot of safety. I'm not crazy and buck wild with the saw. I kind of stay clear most of the time. I don't do any crazy cuts where I'm straddling the log or something to avoid any crazy kickbacks or something crazy happening. I just don't do it. So even when I'm working up on the trailer here with other logs, I still like to play it safe. So I think at this point I don't have anything much more to talk about. I'm going to keep the video probably under 15 minutes, I think. Just to not bore you with a bunch of stuff. As you probably see in the background, I do have a 500-gallon propane tank. The propane tank is just for emergency backup for, you know, the house, just in case the wood burner goes down or we go to town. It just depends. Might use it in the spring, in the fall, where you just need that heat for that cold nippy night, and you don't want to fire up the wood burner. The wood burner has been going this year since September, I think September 1st. It was like the first weekend of September. I had fired it up, so it's been going for almost 4 full months now, and so it's been doing good. I haven't burned a lot of wood. I probably burnt 1 quart of wood the most. So it doesn't eat that much, but I figured I would make a video of exactly how I buck trees, and how I go about it, just my views on it. I base this on experience behind the saw. Every saw is different. Every saw acts different. I don't know why my saw didn't want to rev up today. It was kind of boggy, and I don't know why it was bogging down. It was running like a beast yesterday, and it bogged down today, so maybe it just didn't like being in and out of the warm garage and back out into the cold. Small engines are finicky. Every single little thing comes into play with them, so it probably was just a little choosy on what it wanted to do today, but overall ran good. I like to keep the RPMs high, and like to not necessarily race through every log, but at least keep those RPMs high. That's where the saw likes to be at, is in its power band. So overall, the saw's done very well for me. On multiple occasions, it outperformed the 311. I think it outperforms the 291. I'm very satisfied with it. Now, at a certain point, you know, you're comparing apples to oranges, because I do like, if I was going to step up to a bigger saw, I have ran a 441 a lot. My buddy Josh has a 441 with a 25-inch bar, and it's an absolute monster. And that's probably the biggest saw I'd ever need for the kind of cutting I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, if I'm cutting anything more than 2 feet in diameter, I have to biscuit it out so much because I can't lift the logs into the wood burner. If I had a hydraulic lift and roller to get stuff in the wood burner, I'd probably cut a lot bigger, but for the time being, this small little stuff here, what I consider little, is anything smaller than 24 inches diameter. This saw does pretty darn good. It's a great middle of the line saw, and it performs very well in all climates. So I really enjoy it. I enjoy running it, and it's one of those saws that you can hold all day and not get tired of. So I'm going to wrap it up at 15 minutes and say thanks for watching. I appreciate taking the time to watch my video. If you agree with me, leave some comments. We have a discussion on exactly how you would go about it, what's different, how you do it your way. So as always, I will see you guys next video. I hope you enjoy.